Welcome to the Bennett Brothers podcast for the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show for their penultimate episode of Season 3. That's exhausting to say, and I'm Jerry Bennett.
And I'm Joel Bennett.
I say
that
like a question.
My name, I guess. I don't even know. Are you Jerry Bennett? I'm Ron Burgundy. Excellent. Thank you for joining us. We are a podcast dedicated to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In this
What was that?
It was my epic way of saying it. We were going to talk about the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television show on ABC, specifically the episode Emancipation. You threw me all off.
Sorry, my bad.
The episode entitled Emancipation. So we're going to spoil the heck out of it. We're going to analyze it, talk about it, dissect it, do all sorts of things to it. We also might be a little bit spoilery on Captain America. A little bit. I don't think we're going to spoil it too much.
As much as it was in this episode, in the actual episode.
Exactly, which we will talk about. And if you want to, we have our last podcast was about the Captain America Civil War movie that we talked about.
Fresh off the presses. Go give it a listen.
Yeah, give it a listen. Enjoy it.
We get into a good heated debate.
We do, actually.
And at the end, Joel was wrong. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I don't think there was anything like that.
No, yeah, it wasn't a right or wrong thing. It was a differing of opinions, but anywho,
there was my opinion, and then there was the wrong opinion.
Wonderful. So, before we get started, we like to touch on the news that's happening around the comic book world, comic book cinematic world, and not too much news this week.
They did announce that Jessica Jones Season 2, which we knew was going to be happening, is actually going to be filmed back-to-back with the Defenders series. As right now they're filming Iron Fist. Luke Cage is already done. That'll be out in September. Iron Fist is next. And then they go to Defenders and Jessica Jones Season 2. There was no announcement prior to that when it was going to be coming out. We'd heard 2017. It's 2016 now, right?
Yes,
okay, just making sure. Hey, it's starting to get these weird numbers in the middle. You always lose it. But we do know that they're supposed to film these before the end of the year, later in the year. So that's kind of exciting.
Yep. Still no news on a Daredevil Season 3 or Punisher Season 1, but we know that that's probably going to happen.
Yes, and
later on.
Briefly I'll mention they did announce that there will be a second season of Supergirl, but it is moving to the CW. So say goodbye to that budget, because it's not going to have that CBS backing money anymore, and that show needs the budget.
I hope I don't have to start watching that because it's going to tie into Green Arrow. I'm going to call it Green Arrow. Tie into Green Arrow and Flash.
You mean the Red Blur? We're going to call that show the Red Blur.
The Cape.
Oh, God.
Remember the Cape? Yeah, there's the Cape.
Just after we finished recording the episode, we did get the news that Agent Carter had been canceled and that Marvel's Most Wanted would not be getting picked up as a series. And Joel and I realized that after we were all done, and we're going to have to talk about that in our season finale because we were already split and he had gone home. So that will be in the next podcast. But that's news.
Yeah, that's all the news that I care to talk about. Everything was all about Captain America. We have X-Men Apocalypse coming out in 2 weeks, and that'll be exciting. But, yeah.
We will do a podcast on that as well. We don't know exactly when. Because that's Memorial Day weekend, isn't it? Yeah, it is. 2 weekends.
It's going to be tricky because between this episode, between our next S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a 2-hour finale, which is kind of nice, and then actually that would make the X-Men podcast our 99th episode, which would lead us into whatever we want to do for our 100th, which I'm still saying should be the Elektra movie. Make Joel watch that. But I need response.
Well, I've had cocktails in my system.
Yes, or something like that. If you're interested in hearing us do an old Marvel movie and make Joel have to watch Elektra, let us know on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere. Speaking of those, I want to say thanks to people who've been commenting on Facebook, getting a lot of response. Marshall Tenney, Rich Miltmore, John Magan, Kelly Braun, Jeff Cook, Varda, Joe Castiglione, Tim Curtis. Appreciate the feedback on that. Ryan Paluch, who actually Ryan, our unofficial Bennett Brothers, actually chimed in through the magic of technology for our Civil War podcast, and that was helpful to hear another opinion. So appreciate that. If you want to get in touch with us on any of those, do so. But yeah, give us feedback, because I want to know if it's just me who wants to make Joel have to sit through Elektra. Greatest not great movie of all time.
I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to doing like the Hulk or Thor or any of the older Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. But you're talking about actually doing old Marvel movies.
Well, that's just if somebody wants to see any of the movies to do something.
Like, are we doing the old Fantastic Four movie?
Or if anybody
like
has
old Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, if anybody has any ideas for our 100th podcast, because this is probably the only time we ever do anything like this with the big number.
Well, with all the movies coming out and the TV shows and all that, we may hit 200 before we know it.
Or this might be the last podcast. Who knows? That's it. That's a nice number to end on. But if anybody has any other ideas for us, please let us know on Facebook or Twitter or at Bennett Brothers Podcast at gmail.com. Give us Facebook's probably the easiest way to get in touch with us, or on Twitter at Bennett Bros Pod at Twitter. And if there's any other ideas for the finale, for our 100th, would be great. Doing a movie, getting other people to come in here and comment. Maybe Varda. Maybe we should bring Varda in.
Bring in Varda.
Or anybody. A live show with hundreds of people listening and watching. Well, and speaking of watching, also, we have now put up 3 of our podcasts up on YouTube, including the Captain America Civil War review, which when I put it up, I got flagged from YouTube saying Disney disputes this because I was using some clips from the movie. Mm-hmm. It's like, you can't put this up, there's copyright. And I said, I'll take on you, Disney. And I did, and they backed down. Because they did it. Because I just put on there. I said, please, can you put it on there? We're not making any money, and we're promoting the movie. We really like it. I come on, please. And they said, okay. So.
Oh, that was nice of Mickey to do that for us.
Yeah, because this is all under your name. So if it goes bad, you're going down.
I've already been booted off of Facebook for certain things. Like, I can't post certain videos with like promo videos with songs anymore. Facebook won't let me do it.
Facebook. So I think that brings us into our episode.
That should bring us into our episode entitled Emancipation. Jerry, first impressions.
Great episode, especially compared to last week's fairly bad episode, and an episode which, again, Ryan backed me up on this. We had a conversation. He's like, yeah, if you would miss that episode, you get a 30-second recap, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I guess there was an episode in there. It didn't really, in the big picture thing, mean anything. But this episode, awesome. I
really enjoyed the episode. Again, I have high standards for the episode that follows a Marvel movie. And that's at my own detriment, obviously. I really enjoyed the episode for what it was. Obviously, I think it lacks a lot of the connections that I want. And actually, so we had posted...
Can you take out of that?
Yeah, I can. I can. And actually, I'm even going to take it out further. We had posted a link on our Facebook page for the EW's, or is it E! Online, I should say.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, there's a link on our Facebook page interviewing the showrunners.
The showrunners. And the showrunners actually make a point to state that
I was hoping
they are never going to connect to the movies again the way they did with Winter Soldier. They specifically use these words that says, I'm not going to give you these specific words, but it was of the tone like, oh yeah, don't expect that again. It's never going to.
What I recall it said was, that was as close to a movie TV combination you will ever see.
Yeah, no, and it wasn't like,
and they make that.
It wasn't like
the episode ends here. You go to the movies on Friday. You see the film where it continues, and then on Tuesday you watch it, and it keeps going there. So yeah, nothing will ever synergize.
Yeah,
like
and
that,
it wasn't
ever.
the dialogue, the tone of the interview wasn't, this is the best so far, or Winter Soldier was the best so far. It was, it's the best it's ever going to be.
Because that's what the show was. We knew that, unless they do another movie where it's like S.H.I.E.L.D. movie.
Well, I would hope. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to be around and whatnot, but I would hope that
one more season.
Avengers Age of Infinity Wars, whatever they're going to call it, I hope that would tie in a little bit more.
It's tricky, though. Think about it. They work on those things for, there's pre-production, production, and post-production. It takes sometimes 2 years to make a film. At the same time, this TV show is putting out 22 hours a year, trying to coordinate all that, in addition to schedules and everything. It's a miracle they're doing as well as they're doing, especially if episodes get preempted. Or, I think that's one of the things why if something happens, especially when your show is on a Tuesday.
Imagine like the president had to have a speech.
Well, they do on Tuesdays. It's always they put this show on, or whatever. There's a major world event that happens. That's when all of a sudden you see like, oh, in the middle of March they decided to air a two hour special S.H.I.E.L.D. It's because they're trying to get back in schedule.
That's why the finale next week is probably not going to be a 2-hour show. It's going to be 2 1-hour shows. Yeah.
Well, so I think they kind of planned for that a little bit more with the finales and the premieres. But
sure.
Yeah.
But that being said, I hope Infinity Wars, they tie it a little bit. I've always said I would love to see some of the TV show actors in there. I have a feeling it might just be Daredevil. But that being said, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong with this. The Russo brothers have been
Bring in
talking
Luke
about
Cage.
this.
He's an Avenger.
Yeah, that'd be great. Bring in Mockingbird. She's an Avenger. I mean, come on. I mean, I would like to see that, but we don't know if it's odds. I'm actually going to start tempering my hopes for that, because now I don't want it to affect my love for the television shows, be it Netflix or our ABC television shows. So that being said, going back to what I was talking about, I did really enjoy the episode just for the episode's sake.
Good.
So
it has, and when we get to the moment there is a jaw-droppingly awesome moment here. I don't like to use hyperbole a lot and everything, but when this moment happens in the episode, it's the greatest moment of television of all time. It's up there. The MASH finale and the Star Wars holiday special, the light going on the hatch, and then this moment. I think it's like they're already framing it for something at the Smithsonian. I think it's incredible.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you think it is. I hope it. This also has, if you're talking jaw-dropping as in, like, not amazing, but, like, one of the worst things that the episode has done.
I'm talking about Fitz
there is a moment of that,
Simmons,
by the way.
when they get together and hold hands. What a moment. No.
Okay, so let's get into the episode here. Emancipation. We start in a gin joint, as Talbot is going to call it, a bar somewhere. I don't think we've ever been in this bar before. It doesn't.
I'm guessing this has to be far away from our base and attached way underground by a long tunnel, because we know the base has a giant hangar door that things go up and down out of, plus other entrances.
So people would be like, why are all these planes coming out of the ground all the time?
It's like they go way underground, and then he probably takes an elevator that goes miles away.
Well, we've seen them do the restaurant sort of entrance to.
Oh yeah, there was a Hydra base.
The Hydra base did that as well. So we've seen this before. So you know what, I really don't. I think this is just a way to show like awesomeness. I don't know if it's going to tie into the story outside of the.
Which is funny because also later in the episode, and they go, "You're the only one. You and May are the only ones who know about this." And my kid goes, "Well, the bartender knew about it."
And I'm sitting there going, "Who changes the light bulbs when they go out inside?"
The bartender does all these things.
That's why he has that look on his face, like.
Can't you just use the stairs?
Like when it goes down, there's just a hole there. Now he's got to like cover it with a rug or something.
We're closed.
So we start with the episode. We get a little light recap of kind of the story, not what happens in Civil War, but kind of
aftermath.
Not aftermath. I don't even know if it's that.
I think they do.
I think it's a little aftermath, but it's more of like
Tony Stark. They talk about.
It's more like a synopsis of like what's going to happen and what happened in Civil War, not necessarily a detailed
We're going to spoil the movie here.
We get that from a news reporter.
On the television.
Public feud with Tony Stark and the Avengers over the controversial Sokovia Accords. Ratified by 117 countries, the Accords place the Avengers under UN authority and provide a framework for the registration and monitoring of all enhanced individuals.
We knew this was going to happen sooner or later.
Cap, Agent Carter. They were my heroes growing up. Both of them were there at the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now we may be there when it ends.
The last thing we need right now is the government hamstringing us with the Accords. We need to stop Hive by any means necessary.
I'll deal with the government. You do whatever it takes to end this.
All options on the table.
Desperate times, desperate measures.
Yes, he's reading a newspaper on the passing of Peggy Carter.
This is a direct spoiler. Not to the main storyline of Captain America: Civil War, but it is a spoiler from a moment in there.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm going to reference the article with the showrunners. They said there was a big question, like, you don't want to spoil any of the movie for people who haven't seen it, but this does spoil a segment in the movie here. They talk about why they did that, because, you know, Peggy Carter is an instrumental part of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's an instrumental part of ABC's TV shows. So I thought it was fair. I tried to read the article.
I agree with it, though. I mean, I'm glad they acknowledged it, because in this world, Nick Fury didn't start up S.H.I.E.L.D., which he did in the comic books, but in fact,
well, they say
Peggy did.
She's one of the founders. They didn't say she's specifically the only one, but it mentions in the headline of the newspaper that Peggy Carter, one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I've heard it in the movie. I thought in the movie they say she founded S.H.I.E.L.D. But whatever.
I think they did, but I think they're also like kind of expanding. And also in the
Howard
in
Stark
this TV,
then is
in this show it says Coulson's like, yeah, Captain America was around when S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded too, but that's not true because we know. That's
if you consider the origin, that's true. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not the SSR.
Exactly. So I tried to read the paper as much as I could. The only thing that I think is of any relevance in the paper, they don't mention who her husband is, but they do mention that she had two kids. Will those kids come up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point? Will they come up?
We know her niece has, Sharon Carter.
Yeah, she's only in the movies though. I wonder if we'll get her. I wonder if we'll get her guest starring on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
We've gotten Maria Hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why.
They also did, the writers of Captain America did acknowledge the elephant in the room, and by that I mean the eye-patched elephant in the room, why Nick Fury wasn't in the movie.
In the helicarrier.
In the helicarrier. They said that will get addressed at some point, be it Thor, Ragnarok, or whatever. He'll show up in some place and explain. But it's still sitting out there for our TV show, which is going, what's going on? The reason they did is they didn't want him to have to take a side, either Cap or Iron Man. They didn't want him, they feel like he's like the father figure, the parent figure. So instead of even bringing him in and having him have to choose Team Cap or Team Iron Man, they said, you know what, we're not even going to deal with him. So they thought about it and they said no.
I remember reading somewhere, and I know this is, anything can change, but I remember they didn't want to waste one of his movie appearances.
I doubt that's the thing, because that's with Robert Downey Jr. It's like they've clearly shown that they had him scheduled for 3 Iron Man movies and 4 Avengers movies. And and also a cameo that he did in Hulk, but then he's like, oh yeah, he adjusted his contract, and now he's in Captain America: Civil War, and he adjusted his contract again, and now he's in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and he's talking about doing Iron Man 4.
The amount of money he makes per movie compared to everyone else is insane, though. I think it was like he made $40 million for Captain America, and the next highest was Black Widow at like $12 million or something like that, and then Chris Evans was like at $6 million. Like it's just an insane spread what Robert Downey Jr. makes, and deservedly so. He's fantastic in the movies, and he is kind of one of the you could chalk him up to being on the Mount Rushmore of the foundation of the MCU. So anyways, back to our episode here. Coulson and May, they talk about this is an important scene that affects later on. Coulson's like, yeah, all options are on the table, and that's going to come into play later on in the episode when we get the big twist. What? Options of how to stop Hive, and they take a gamble later on with Lash.
And he basically just says, you go deal with Hive, I'll deal with Talbot and the government. May's like, oh, thanks a lot.
Speaking of Talbot comes in, and then they go through the entrance from the bar. They go into the playground.
Yeah, there's a great, because Talbot is representing the president, and this was I'm enjoying the character of Talbot.
His dialogue is fantastic.
Well, they're evolving his character. Is he a general now? I know he was a colonel for whatever.
I think he's general, yeah.
So, which is interesting because
I think so.
But they're evolving his character, so he's not the one-note dopey, dumb character that he's always been in the comics. I mean, he was the version of him that they had in the Incredible Hulk cartoon show from the 80s, which was on with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Again, a very one-note, stupid character. He was a dumb character in the Hulk movie, the Ang Lee one, who he gets killed in that one. And he's evolving. He's getting, and then Coulson's doing it. He's bringing him on the team. Don't make him an adversary. Make him an ally.
Mm-hmm. The Sokovia Accords are law of the land now. He's concerned you may have some undocumented enhanced assets working for you.
And why would he think that?
Because he's not a moron. Come on, Phil. It's time for S.H.I.E.L.D. to come in from the cold. Re-legitimize.
In exchange for revealing and registering any Inhumans we may have? Not gonna happen.
It's good enough for the Avengers.
Not all of them. And the Avengers operate in the spotlight. We work in the shadows.
What's going on in those shadows, Phil? That's what I want to know.
I'm loving it. I love it. This episode does it through the whole thing. He keeps saying these things he's going to do, and then he has to stop and think, yeah, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to do this. And he's realizing, I think we hopefully can get away from this conflict. So it's not a conflict all next season or the next season after that. It's like, let's move on to other conflicts. We get it. He's got, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s got the government liaison. It's working out. Let's go have a conflict over here. We've seen this one. We don't need to keep repeating it.
We go back to the town in Wyoming. We see Daisy. She's giving her blood, and she's also hacking into the S.H.I.E.L.D., which is going to be a big part of this episode here.
We do know that the government knows about this town.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a second.
And we do know that why doesn't the government just go blow up this town where they know this creature's at? And
well, we'll talk about that in a second coming up here because they do reference that in the conversation.
They do. Okay, good.
So we also see Radcliffe. He's apparently he's very tired because they make a point of showing him giving her the wrong bottle and being like, oh, I'm giving you the wrong bottle. That's going to come into play later when we get our abominations, I guess you want to call them. But I thought that was a significant point. Not the first time I watched it, but the second time on my watch through, it was like, okay, that's gonna play a point later on. Maybe not this season, but next season. And I'll explain what I mean about that later. Back at the playground, we see May bringing in Lincoln some food, which is, again, also going to come into play later because she's bringing him notes and messages that we didn't find out about till the end of the episode, but she's bringing him stuff. And this is wonderful because this explains why she's been a total dick to him. She's been awful to him, and I've been pointing that out the past couple episodes. And it's really kind of her way of, I don't know if it's some of it was real and some of it wasn't. But in my opinion, I think she was doing that to kind of put up a front to show, because they know Skye was going to be looking at Skye. Look at that. Daisy was looking in on them. Maybe. Or she was just being really mean to him.
Well, no, she calls out a lot of things. She says it right there, point blank.
Well, I know she calls it out, but she's doing that as a front right now. She's doing that as a front to fool Daisy, who's Daisy's watching in.
Okay.
I'm wondering
she's
how
playing,
long.
she's playing the long con.
Yeah, I'm wondering how long she's been doing the long con. So the reason I bring that up is because she asked Coulson earlier on, like, all cards on the table. Like, we can send Lash out there in the world, and Lash may kill Daisy. We don't know. That's one of the gambles they're playing. And that's when Coulson's like, yeah. So does that mean she started doing the ruse against Daisy's hacking and surveillance just then this episode, or has she been doing that the whole time because she knows might be watching the whole time? I don't know. I like to think that.
When we get to the Lash part, when she's in there, I have some questions.
Okay. He mentions that Lincoln is now fine. They're still keeping him locked up.
Yes.
But Lincoln's actually fine now.
Yes.
It was kind of a throwaway line, too. I had to listen to it twice. I'm like, did he just say that, yeah, he's fine now? Yeah, he's fine. His whole immune system is okay now. Coulson gives Talbot a tour. We get Yo-Yo. She comes back. Interesting little scene here where Yo-Yo takes the medals off of Talbot. I had no idea all those medals were connected. I just never thought about it. I was
what do you think every time they go, put on number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? No,
that makes sense.
Actually a medal.
Now I know that. I had no idea. That's my naivete, like, with the whole military thing. I was like, oh, they're all connected. Interesting. Anywho, Talbot brings up the index. Index was from a couple seasons ago.
Yes. I like that they brought this up, and it
Talbot's
was...
like, you had an index.
And then Coulson's like,
yeah,
we learned from that.
Yes.
But there was a time, it's like, actually... the fact that he had to say that, because otherwise Coulson looked like a total,
quick little line,
whatever you want to
solve stuff right there. Yeah. Shows the maturation of the character.
I think it was too, because that was one of those things that even though we didn't bring it up, I'm sure other people were thinking, how can you take this high and mighty stance about this when you have an index? So they did acknowledge that.
We didn't know with the index. We didn't know there was going to be a registration act because that comes about in Civil War. This is about the
no, but I'm saying when he takes this thing of I don't want to register my Inhumans. They better mention the index, because otherwise he looks like a hypocrite.
I'm just trying to save our face. We could have never mentioned this before because we didn't know it was going to be about registration of. I mean, we knew, but we didn't know. So we couldn't have said anything.
Okay.
So then we go to we get to bring back the Watchdogs here from a couple episodes ago. They're in a compound somewhere. They're doing their militia stuff going on there. Pete Boggs and I believe the other one is called Jackson. I don't know if Pete Boggs. Pete Boggs. I don't know if that necessarily is a comic book character or not.
He played for the 74 Orioles, I believe. He was
that's Wade Boggs, but I don't know if he's a comic book character or not. But they're talking about there, and they want to get rid of all the superpowers. They're the militia.
Why did you all of a sudden you have to go to an accent of a?
That's what they do, because they're so like. I hope you guys can stop Thor. Good luck with that. I don't know what their end game is. Yeah, they did that thing.
We don't have to stop Thor. We just have to take his woman and make him leave the planet, or we'll hurt her. That's how they would have written that.
It's a good one. And they do have the technology to contract a building, so I guess that's a nice little piece of technology to have.
That's true.
Back at the playground, Daisy gets in contact with Lincoln, and then they create a loop to see Lincoln laying in bed, and then they have a little heart-to-heart. Anything to say about that?
About the TV show Heart to Heart?
Yep.
Because it was very good. She's gorgeous.
And then Talbot and Coulson, they come in, they talk with Lincoln. Mac meets up with Yo-Yo. Mac explains, he talks about end times that Hive is going to be bringing, and then they talk about faith, which is a big part of this episode coming up here.
She also learned English faster than anybody I've ever seen. Yes. She's fantastic at that.
Although Mac did pick up Spanish, and they mentioned that in previous episodes, and they mentioned in this episode. So they're trying to learn. These agents are trying to learn a lot of different languages to show that they're spies. Okay, so then we go to Washington somewhere. I guess this is where the compound is in Washington. And the only reason I know this is because the license plate said Washington.
I saw that.
So they're going after someone. We don't know who yet, but we'll find out here shortly. Back at the playground, Lincoln tells Talbot he wants to sign up for the registration.
Which was an interesting twist there. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, Coulson's like, hey, well, I didn't plan for that. He's got to stay here. What about his rights? Well, that was before I knew he was going to say he wants to leave.
And then Coulson and Talbot, they go to see Lash. We get to see Lash for the first time. We haven't seen him in a while. And then again, I love the way...
Let's talk about Lash here. May's in there. Is she just looking at the window through puppy dog eyes? Because we learn that he can speak. He has capabilities of using pronouncing words and everything. Does he ever talk? And all this time when he's just looking at her, does May talking? Does he respond? Was he talking when he was out? What's his level of communication? How much of the doctors
is Andrews in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a puppy dog eye thing, but they could have been.
Because clearly they must communicate with him saying, listen, we're going to put you on this jet so you can go fight this. So when we open the door, don't go running out there trying to kill Lincoln or Yo-Yo. Go over here. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. That's a good point. It's one of those things that I'm okay.
Because they didn't put anybody else on the jet with him.
No,
they put it on autopilot.
No. Well, Daisy's flying the plane because Lincoln doesn't know how to fly it either. So Daisy hacked the controls so she can fly the Quinjet to where they're supposed to
When
meet.
did they make the switch? Because he was in.
Well, it's the magic of television right there. They made the switch.
Okay.
There's a time differential there, maybe 20 minutes. Well, Mac's knocked out.
Poor Mac.
Poor Mac. I don't feel bad for Mac, actually. I don't feel bad for him.
You big dummy.
Then I like this little scene here. Talbot's asking about the whereabouts of Daisy, and they're like, Daisy's off right now, and he's like, no, she's not. We have pictures of her in Wyoming with a dead agent. Like, why is it dead agent?
Coulson gets a little cocky. Like, well, when are you going to tell me? He's like, I want to see if you were honest, and you weren't. So don't, again, it's that whole high horse thing that it's like, get off your horse.
And then probably one of my favorite moments of the episode here, Talbot mentions, oh yeah, and there was also an unidentified object that landed there, which was the Kree, which I had mentioned. Like, come on, some other people in the country are not watching this or anything.
But if he's the government, why didn't they send anybody in? There should be a line of dialogue saying we sent a group in and they never came back.
Well, here's what I think happened, right? Talbot thinks Daisy is still working with S.H.I.E.L.D. They see the dead agent, but they don't know anything about Hive. So they see the dead agent and they're like, S.H.I.E.L.D. must have figured out a way to bring this dead agent back to life,
or he wasn't dead.
And
anyways.
they're dealing with the unidentified object.
I'll give you that. That'll because otherwise,
does that make sense? That's what I had to think about that.
Like they're ready to send in, and he goes, "Wait a minute, there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent there." And another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent that we thought was dead. So maybe there's something going on. I'm going to go talk to Coulson before we jump the gun.
Yep.
I'll give you that. That'll be fine. They could have mentioned that,
and
but
that's why
I'll
I like
read
it
that.
because I know I made a big stink last podcast
it smelled
about
so bad.
It was awful because you have an unidentified object landing on Earth, and we know between Thor's hammer landing on Earth, the Kree, not the Kree, the
I got it. We got it.
Skrull?
People, we're not going to go through the list again.
The Chitauri.
Yeah.
The Dark Elves. Anyways. So I'm happy about that scene. I'm very happy about that. Back in Washington, the Watchdogs, they confront the man they're chasing, who turns out to be James. I'm sure this is one of Jerry's favorite parts of the episode here.
Well, he
starts
scene,
using his chain.
Yeah, and he mentions hell because, again, his code name is
Hellfire.
End of the line, Inhuman. There's nowhere left to run.
I suppose there's always hell. Who follows a stranger down a dark alley dressed as pups? I mean, on principle alone, I can't let this end well for you.
I watched that scene again just today. The special effect when it slows down the camera and the chain,
it's great.
It's right out of Ghost Rider, which again, in the comic books, he has ancestry with the original Old West Ghost Rider. But yeah, it was fantastic. And I also like how the chain wasn't just in that one scene, the same way that the Absorbing Man had picked up the wrecking ball, that little cue ball on a chain, and like, oh, that's not, and then he never used it again. It's like once James has the chain, he keeps it, and he keeps it later. It's like, yes, that's your weapon. Keep doing that.
Cool little effect with the chain, because I really liked it. When it would hit the ground, they actually digitally added in scorch marks onto the pavement. Like, that's something you could easily forget. And I watched it a couple times.
They did it right.
I'm like,
they did
oh,
it.
look
The special
at this.
effects in the show is usually done really well for the most part.
So, and then Hive also shows up here they're gonna use the Watchdogs as their next experiments, volunteers, quote unquote volunteers. So back at the playground, Coulson is showing Talbot. He's showing him Maveth, the planet. Maveth, I should say.
Yeah, you always screw that up.
Yeah, whatever. Have they actually said the word Maveth on this show?
Let's move on.
I'm just wondering.
Let's move on.
And then they talk about how all the devil myths arise from Hive. And then Talbot talks about the Accords and because he's like, because they bring out to speed with Daisy, and he's like, that's why the Accords are created, because now there's a nuclear weapon out there called Daisy, she's under the control of the enemy. And I thought this was a good argument. This was a good argument that ties into
Although
the
they
movie
could
a
have
little
said,
bit.
you know what, she's not a nuclear weapon. You're blowing this thing up. She's got a lot of power, but she doesn't have the power to devastate an entire city for miles and miles and miles. Don't say nuclear. Say she's just,
we don't
an
know.
ICBM.
We don't know the extent. I mean, can she?
No, she can't
unleash a earthquake inside a city.
No, but then again, I think back to that when she was out in Tibet, she did make the snow move on all those mountains at a distance. So maybe. All right, we'll stay with it.
Nice.
This is also the scene where Simmons or Fitz, or one of them, they kind of figure out that the blood is the transfer. They kind of just like, oh, it must be the blood. They didn't really like back it up anyway. They go, oh, which made me also think that in our next episode, I'm guessing here, if they need more Kree blood, they're going to capture Coulson and take it from him.
Well, they do have some stockpiles left over. Yes. They didn't use all their blood up. So.
She looked like she got drained pretty bad through this whole episode.
Even her scars on her face were a different color. But she still has her scars, which is great. Back in Wyoming, James locks up the watchdogs so they can run the experiment. I also like that James is drinking here. He's got two cans. I think it's 2 cans. He's holding them together. He's drinking.
I will say it's funny when they put those guys into that container. It's like, let's put them in a container, no windows, and we also don't have a camera we can put in there. It's like, really, you wouldn't know because all of a sudden you hear this, you hear the screaming. It's like, and the guy's like, now we wait. Oh, we would know.
It was
if we
a makeshift thing, though. I'll buy that. Like we need to have a place of containment. We never built a lab or anything like that, so this is where we're doing it. That's my opinion, but that's my way out of it.
Daisy and Lincoln.
And so we go back to the playground. So Daisy helps Lincoln escape. There's some stuff going on there. This is kind of overlapping each other. Talbot is yelling at the team, letting him have it, which I thought was nice about the end of the world type thing that Hive is bringing. Which I've been mentioning for the longest time.
But then he calls him. He goes, okay, you go tell them all this. He's like,
yep.
Well, I can't. He's like, exactly.
You bring up the devil, he's like, well, lie about that. So Daisy's helping Lincoln escape. Lincoln knocks out one of the guards with a tray. He avoids May at one point. And then we also find out a little throwaway line here, but the Hive stole something from the ATCU facility in Indiana.
Well, we knew about this.
We knew we knew that, but we didn't know. Oh, yeah, we didn't know it was the warhead. That's right. Although
I thought Blake was getting the warhead, but Blake actually... I guess he didn't take the warhead, or is Blake still working for them? What happened at the end of that with Blake?
We don't know.
Because I saw him gets the warhead.
He's in a wheelchair, and that's the last we see of him.
I thought the warhead was for him. So he's either showing up in the next episode. To IMDb, let's find out. No, I won't spoil it.
Maybe he's the one that's going to die.
No, that would be weak.
We're going to talk about that at the end here.
Oh, I have my theory is really solid.
And then the team figures out that Lincoln is trying to escape. Back in Wyoming... The Watchdogs, they've transformed into what I can only refer to as Deadpool from X-Men Origins. That's all. Their mouths are a little bit wider open, but they look exactly like Deadpool from X-Men X-Men Wolverine Origins.
Okay, I'll tell you who I think they're supposed to represent. In the comic books, in the Inhumans, they have a group of quote-unquote subhumans, people who work for them. They're called the Alpha Primitives. I'll read what it kind of said online, too, just to help. The Alpha Primitives are a race of subhuman worker drones once employed by the Inhumans to perform manual labor and menial tasks. They came into existence 4,000 years ago when geneticist Avidar, I hope that's not Hive, I can't remember what Hive's name was.
We didn't get his name.
I thought we did.
Oh, no, we did. But...
Yeah. Convinced the ruling council of genetics that a race of subhuman servants would free the Inhumans for the needs to toil for substance. So, and they recently, in the last couple of years, they've done some storyline with them where they have gotten their rights, and you can't be using slaves and all those other features. But yeah, they all look like they were characters created in the 60s. It was part of the Inhumans myth. Deal with the royal family was this, and they didn't know any better. Very similar to this, so I'm surprised they didn't use the term Alpha Primitives, that's what I'm guessing that they're supposed to represent. When I saw them, I'm like, oh, those are like those subhuman creatures, and I couldn't remember the name Alpha Primitives until I looked it up. But yeah, that was them.
Well, I like that. Because that defines a little bit better than just being Deadpool.
They are all 5'7" tall, have green eyes, and hairless bodies.
Well, there's different sizes here. That
hairless body. Well, they're clones too. So
back at the playground, May and Yo-Yo they go to the bar to try to see if Lincoln is going to be going out that escape area. Mac helps Fitz and Simmons. He's back on his feet, and they figure out that maybe Lincoln can use one of the Quinjets to escape.
Yes. So then Mac goes off. He forgets that they have intercoms or cell phones or radios or any other way to send people to the thing. He goes, I'll get there, as opposed to sending. I mean, obviously we know what happens here, but I hate that where it's like, I'm on my way. You're surrounded by agents. Just say, meet me there. They could then cut to a whole bunch of agents knocked out.
So let me ask you. Lincoln walks into the hangar here.
Oh, I know this joke.
The camera's down. Did Mac do that, or was that May? Did May do that so they couldn't see them
May
loading
took care of all that.
Lash in the Quinjet?
you have to assume. I mean, it gets a little muddied when the timeline of this goes, like you said, the TV magic of muddling time. Yep. But I think you have to say that they did that.
And then I put down here, Mac is really dumb at this point. He bear hugs Lincoln.
This'll stop him.
Yeah, like
what is this guy's power?
You know what works on stopping him? An icer. That would have worked because icers don't work against Inhumans under sway, but it works.
I know.
On Inhumans, so that would have stopped him easily. You've iced him.
Yeah,
not going anywhere.
Don't never look down on the Mac bear hug.
Jesus.
This'll get you.
So back in Wyoming, as you mentioned before, there's James. He's standing ready with his chain when they open up the door. The subhumans,
Moloids.
They have super strength. We come to find out because they can break their chains. And then we get a little scene here where Radcliffe is begging for his life, but he's going to improve the next batch. He says he's going to make more. And
Hive doesn't even care about that. He's like, "This is fine. You did good."
But I think the idea that they're showing he was tired, and that's why they came out the way they did, and that he's going to improve on the next batch.
He's making progress. He went from melted people to these guys. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good jump.
Yeah, so I think he's going to even do better next time, and I don't know if that's going to have a play in this episode or next episode, or if it's going to play in next season. We'll find out here if they're going to keep that guy around. I think they're going to keep. I would like to see them keep this actor because I like the actor a lot that plays him, and I think his character is interesting because he's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy. Mm-hmm. He advances the mythos.
He could die at any second on a show like this.
Absolutely. Back at the playground, Link is on the Quinjet, and him and Daisy are supposed to meet somewhere alone together, which we find out that's not actually what's happening. And then Mac has one of his best lines. He goes, "Well, maybe I'm not the Inhuman Whisperer." No, you are not, Mac. You can't stop people from doing anything. He tried with Daisy, he's tried with Lincoln, and he's failed both times now.
Even your brother wasn't thrilled with you, Mac.
No. I think Yo-Yo's listening to you a little bit.
Well, she can't understand English, so she just nods. So yes.
So back in Wyoming, we find out that Daisy lied to Lincoln.
Yes,
we don't know this yet that Lincoln is not going there. We don't know this. It was a good little. Were you fooled by that? That Lincoln was not on there?
No, because that leads up to my moment. That leads up to what I thought was the great moment of the show. I mean, I was joking earlier about one of the greatest moments of all time.
So we find out that Daisy lied to Lincoln, which makes sense. And then Hive asked Daisy for all her blood, and she actually is going to give him all her blood. We find out, which I thought was nice.
It was nice of her.
It was nice of her. Very nice of her. Helping him out. Back at the playground, this is when we get the big reveal here that Lincoln wasn't on the jet and May and Coulson knew about it the whole time.
This was the moment that my kid looked at me because my jaw dropped. I was like, "Yeah, this was one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s best moments. This of the whole show was just that the thing starts lowering, coming down, and the music's going boom, boom, boom. It was really decent music, and
Talbot's going nuts on him.
Just that he's staring at him, he's looking at it in the lighting. That's a character who works better in darkness, anyways. And then Hive's reaction and him backing up a few steps when he sees it, and they had to go to a commercial. They cut back. Mm-hmm. This moment when he pushes him off there. Well, actually, when he fires, that comes up later too.
He stops the.
Everything about this was working. Now, as soon as I saw this, I'm like, "Whoa, wow, they're doing this now."
I believe Lash's purpose is to kill Hive.
Lash isn't going to be the thing that can save him, which makes sense. If you're going to take out Hive at the end of all this, it needs to be one of our main characters. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't, so that in the big scheme of things, because we haven't been spending a lot of time with Lash, this is kind of like we're going to use Lash, but as soon as I realized when he was carrying Daisy away, I'm like, oh, they're going to kill him off, which we'll get to that moment. But yeah, that was the between them. It seemed like he could do everything right there and end the show for him, but he had other ideas.
So as Lincoln and May are telling their plan on how they made everything work, Talbot has that great line where he's like, Hive is going to go fight against Lash. Who in tarnation names these things?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a pretty...
Cut to Cisco from Flash.
Yeah, exactly. I do. So, yeah, in Wyoming, they're having their little battle.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. Lash blows a hole in Hive. I wonder if that's going to heal. I wonder if that's going to be there or covered up. He puts on a jacket or something.
Well, he's already replaced one jacket when his sleeve got around the last episode.
I'm wondering... the reason I'm wondering that is... Was that our proof that Lash can take out Hive by blowing a hole and he can't regenerate from that?
Depends on how...
Unless he regenerates by eating a human.
Or jumping into another body. And that's why the whole point of him going into a ship at the end of this is because he'll be on that ship up in space. So when something bad explodes, there's no other human or creature for him to jump into.
He's going to use Radcliffe's body. He's going to eat Radcliffe to regenerate that hole in his chest.
Maybe.
I think that's what's going to happen.
That's Joel's theory of the week.
I'm throwing it in there.
Theory of the week.
So, yeah, and the Deadpools all come out. The Subhumans, I wrote Deadpools down there because that's what it looks like. The Subhumans all come out. They also fight. I like the line that James is on a beer run.
Yeah.
It seems fitting to his
Now,
character.
there was like 5 in Subhumans, I think there were, but he kills 2 of them.
At least he kills at least 2 of them.
Because I remember in the scenes for next week's episode, they show a shot, and they're like, well, we have to have more bad guys standing on Hive, so they throw the last 3 of them in the background.
So here's my laugh out loud moment from probably all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. television. And I don't even know if you noticed this. So Daisy's she's trying to shock him, or trying to tremor him. She's too weak, she falls down. Lash comes over, removes
which was
hive,
awesome.
Which is interesting.
No, that was awesome. I mean, that was that follow. I'm like,
well, he's able to remove it from Daisy.
And burn it.
Will we be able to get it removed from James? We want James to stay on the show because obviously he's a secret warrior, right?
It may be a situation where this is easy writing. Hive gets killed, all of his influence, and they all die.
Yeah, that's possibly it
because the ones that were in Blinky, Angel Eyes, Lucius, they didn't come rushing out of his body. They were dead, whatever that connection was. I'm just saying that's the standard, Star Wars Phantom Menace. Take out the master ship and all the robots shut down.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I like that. Nice. Good connection. Yeah. Good connection. Here's where I laughed out loud. I've watched it now 6 or 7 times here. This is the American Sniper moment when Lash goes to pick up Daisy. It is clearly a doll that he's picking up. It is clearly a mannequin. It's really bad. It's American Sniper.
I didn't notice it. No, I know the fake baby.
The fake baby. It's a fake that, and like
I didn't
the head,
notice
I'm like, it was really funny. If this is on YouTube, hopefully that clip is up there showing that right now, at least, because I think it's hysterical. Made me laugh out loud. I'm like, I can't believe they left this scene in there and no one saw this. I cannot be the only one looking at this. Maybe I'm gonna look online after this and see if anyone else is talking about this because it was bad.
Well, that clip is on YouTube. That's one of the ones that's out there.
So then he puts Daisy down on the thing, and then he gets the chain right through the chest, which is, I thought was fantastic. I did not see it coming. As much as you think
as soon as he set him down, I'm like, he's not gonna go back and fight.
I did not know James was gonna kill him.
I didn't know it was gonna come right then. As soon as they cut to that shot, I'm like, oh, something's gonna happen. I called it like within 2 seconds. What's interesting about this with James's powers is not just lighting that stuff up, but he's controlling that chain. So there's
it doesn't explode. Yeah.
Well, also he's able to like turn it to instead of the chain hitting him like a whip, which is what it would do. He's already shown that he can use it. Like he catches that one guy in the leg and yank him forward. He's got some sort of extended control of the chain because he's able to use it like a spear.
Yeah.
It's like, and it goes into him and comes back out. It doesn't just go, think about that. How would it do that? So
I think so, but it's also a chain. Like you can whip it or you can throw it at someone. And I think with the burning of it can burn right through instead of a spear. It's possible he has more control over it. I think he has control over it is not allowing it to explode.
You wrecked my theory.
It's still a decent theory. And
I'm going home.
So I'm interested in seeing.
I'm going home.
You already are home. What do we do this in your house? I'll be interested in seeing the ramifications of this. If May feels like she's gonna have to go after James because of this.
No, because then you have to go after Daisy because Daisy was under influence too.
Okay, fair enough. I'll buy that completely. So Daisy gets in the cockpit. She slowly puts on the headphones. She slowly makes her thing, and I'm like, Hive is still out there. James is still out there. He could just cut the wing off the plane.
Well, he blew back James. James has been hit with concussion. Right. So have the 2 subhuman or 3 of them. And Hive's got a hole in his chest, and he's still shocked by all of this.
Okay, fair enough. But she does this. It's so slow. I'm like, what are you even putting on that? Like, fly out of there, and then when you're flying, call out that you're on your way. Anyways, we go back to the playground. We see a restored Daisy. She's returning to the playground under guard.
She's kind of got cuffs in the front.
And then the Fitz and...
Does she not have to use the cool gauntlets anymore?
No.
Those were so awesome. That's from the books.
She doesn't have to use those.
She should have to use those. Those were cool.
Fitz and Lincoln, they're talking... This goes back a couple episodes. This goes back...
We find out at this point... We find out this whole point that is Lash's purpose
was to save Daisy,
not to kill Hive.
That's up for debate, in my opinion.
Well, they did establish that he never killed her earlier either.
And I agree with that, but I still think
it's all about some sort of giant master plan. Yeah.
And that's what this...
Also, just so you know, Grandmaster Plan was an awesome rapper in the early 80s. He was fantastic.
I know the showrunners talked about the idea with Faith, and then we've had Lincoln mentioned throughout the season about how there's a purpose for each Inhuman. I still think that's a little bit muddled. Because, I mean, is Yo-Yo going to have a purpose that, like, this is what she was created? She was created to do this. Like, I don't like that idea. I think they're not all there for a purpose. I think they're there for that. And I think Andrew was a part of Lash at this point, saving Daisy. That's my opinion. I
So
could be wrong.
now we're getting to the explanation of Hive having the ability to create a shockwave of his powers up in the atmosphere.
Just real fast, Talbot is still questioning that this is a trap, which is a good point. Like, how do you know this is just isn't a Hive trap here? Like, you're just going to trust that Daisy flew herself here and she's saying she's okay? But then they do look at her brain and all the sway.
But does she do what Bucky
gone.
does, where she goes, "Your mom's name is Maria"? I mean, it's like, yeah, that's what they did in Civil War. People just take people's words for it.
And then, like you're saying, they talk about the end game here. Oh, I also want to mention that.
So how does
it
this shockwave thing
it looks like Daisy is also going to have some withdrawal symptoms from it, from the sway. But
how do you figure that?
by the way, sway, wasn't that the thing in Powers as well? Like, I don't. No, Simmons said that. She goes, she's going to suffer with some withdrawals, like addiction withdrawals.
So explain this whole shockwave
so
missile.
they're going to use it, and they're going to detonate it high up in the atmosphere, and then
and
it's
what's
gonna
in
rain
it that's
down.
going to do that?
I believe whatever
a bunch of his little nanos.
Him, maybe, yeah, or whatever the Kree blood thing that Radcliffe created.
Well, that blood. I don't know. See, I don't. It's also, it's a weapon exploding. Would it not vaporize everything?
I mean, this.
I got a little. It's a little funky right here.
This has been done before. I mean, this sort of evil master plan, wicked James Bond villain thing, where you explode a chemical over a city and then it transforms everyone. Which I actually had mentioned. Is this going to be like the world ender? And this is what they're trying to do. It's going to be. It's not a world ender per se, but it's a huge population ender or a changer.
It brings us to our button, correct?
And that does bring us to our button. Our button here.
Did you realize what it was when you?
I didn't, but
as soon as I heard that little bit of metal sound, like, oh, it's the crucifix.
So it's the necklace. It's the crucifix. Yo-Yo gives it to Mac. Although I watched the next time on, and there's Fitz holding it, so I don't.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's not like Mac's gonna have it. It's one of those things that whoever has it at the end, it's a hot potato. Whoever has this at the end is the one who's gonna get it.
It's a hot potato.
Speaking of which,
well, let's talk about
who's gonna be the hot potato here?
Okay, because everybody's guessing. My theory was either Lincoln or Joey, but I think it's Lincoln. Now, I say this, I thought, oh, I'm the only one who thinks this, but then I found that on one of the websites, somebody had done a poll of all the people, and a lot of people are thinking it's Lincoln.
So,
but here's why.
Do you like Lincoln better after this episode?
Well, yeah, I can't like him any worse than I did. Here's why I think it's Lincoln. It's a bigger death. He's a focal point. He would go up there to sacrifice himself. It would give Daisy a relevant season next year where she can have this emotional problem of, oh, she lost her love. So that's giving drama for that character as opposed to them being a couple next season. That's not going to happen. That's not as entertaining for writers if they want to have her doing that. And we've already established him. This is the part I think would be the cheat in the overall thing, is we've seen him use his lightning and it getting more intense. We've seen the lightning in his eyes now.
He can become lightning.
At the very end, he'll be up in the ship. He'll become lightning. The explosion will happen. And then some way next season, mid-season, right at the end or whatever, an episode, all of the electricity that's up in the atmosphere, it'll all come back down and he'll land. Like one of the episodes will end on a button where all the electricity will come together and he'll be breathing, standing there back on Earth. And like, oh my God, Lincoln's back alive. And that's kind of like Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. That would be, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that would be a nice way of keeping him on the show, but still having the emotional death of that moment.
And they could always do it where they're like, don't go, Lincoln. Coulson's like, I order you not to go, and Lincoln goes because they've been establishing that he breaks rules all season long.
Well, he's going to do it for her. And now he's not a human that can be influenced by Hive up in space, but...
So...
Who do you think it is?
Okay. So after reading the article with the showrunners, they make he at one point goes, when she dies, and the other one person goes, oh, you can't say that.
Yeah, I saw
now, is that a joke? Is that real? I don't know. But the way they talk about the death, they say, it's a show changer death. And I don't think Lincoln's a show changer death.
Well, they've said, no, that I think the word show changer, that's the marketing department. Mm-hmm. And that you can't go by, this is the episode that changes everything. They said that when Daisy got her power, got taken over by Hive. That was in the marketing.
I'm not talking about marketing. I'm talking about the actual interview.
Well, they're backing up the marketing promo. I'm not worried about that.
Here's my thought. And I'm going to step out on a limb here with this. I think...
No.
It's going to be Simmons.
No.
And here's the reason I think it's Simmons. One, The Simmons Fitz thing is already played out. They've
talked
all episodes.
Thing. No,
it's going to be a soap opera then at that point. 2, the reason I think it's Simmons.
They already ended last season where she got zapped away to another planet.
I realize that, but I think it might be Simmons because the whole Will thing is going to come back into play, and she's going to be the one to finally stop him and avenge Will and do all that kind of stuff. I also think it's a game changer because it's a show changer because it is it would be a huge death, and it would change everybody on the show.
You can kill Lincoln and you can kill Hive, so you're killing off an original cast member and a relatively new cast member.
And here's the other thought. I mean, it could be anybody because they killed off Lash, and he's a comic book character. And we talked about how it's like, but he's a comic book character, but they killed him off. I also thought it could be...
by the way, they Ward, they just introduced him into the comic book series.
Did they?
Yes.
As Ward or...
Yes, Grant Ward is introduced into there, so I don't know how that's going to tie in, but he's in the book.
They could pull Hive out of him, and now he's alive.
Well, he's a bad guy, though, I think, in the book.
I would say they pull him out, now he's zombie Ward.
Well, there was one of these articles I did look was saying where there were all the different characters in vote, and they said who's, you could do it to Yo-Yo. Coulson's safe. May is probably safe. Fitz and Simmons are probably safe. You can't really do it to Mac because they're already leading like it's going to be Mac, but in the article, they brought up the same thing where it's like, going to kill off another black guy on the show. That probably won't happen. Mm-hmm. The same way, it was funny. I was at my in-laws yesterday, and we were talking about this. And my mother-in-law was in the kitchen while we were talking in the other room loudly about this, and was saying who could do it. And I go, well, they could kill off Fitz or Simmons. And from the other room, she goes, they better not. She represents the people who don't. She watches the show, and that's one of those connections. I think
Simmons could be it. I think it could be, and I don't want it to be, but that would be huge. That would be huge. If
they kill off Fitz, will you stop doing the podcast?
No.
I've got people who want to take your spot.
At this point in the show, so Game of Thrones is going on right now, right? I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's conversations like it feels safe now in Game of Thrones. One of the big things about Game of Thrones is they can kill off anyone at any time. Same with Walking Dead. But in Game of Thrones, it's like
not anyone.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's like 3 characters you're not killing off on that show.
Yeah, but I mean,
just like Walking Dead, they're not killing off 3 characters.
But that being said, I like a show that I'm not saying I want to kill characters, but if they're gonna kill a character, make it something. Make it.
You can't kill Coulson off. They've already done that bit.
I'm not saying Coulson. I think Coulson's completely safe.
They killed him in the movies already once.
Unfortunately,
I
think May is safe, but I don't want May to be safe.
Daisy's safe.
Daisy is definitely safe.
I think well, like I said, I've already said who I think it is.
You think it's Lincoln? But I think Lincoln is so obvious. Like
now, if you're listening to these podcasts back to back, you've already heard the next one, which we haven't even recorded yet because we haven't watched those episodes, and we'll clearly know next week. And we'll be like,
I like this. Okay, so I'm going with Simmons.
I'm going with Lincoln.
Joey's
my safety.
He's your safety. My safety is gonna be
Lash.
Who is my safety? I mean, we have
Yo-Yo.
Agent Anderson wasn't in this episode. He could be there.
Blake.
I'm going to go with my safety, and I'm going to step out on a ledge with this. No, I don't, because I would go with my safety be Lincoln, because that seems like a safe answer. And no, I'm going to step out on a ledge again. So I'm going to step out with Simmons, and if it's not Simmons, it's going to be May. It's going to be May.
Well, there it
is.
Oh, God.
There it is. Woo!
I'm not putting that music in here.
You don't have to.
You'd have a better chance of me putting in the theme to Heart to Heart.
You don't have to. It's wonderful.
All right. So next week is the finale.
Here we go.
It's a 2-hour one. That means the podcast might be a little bit longer, but we don't know.
Sure. We're gonna speculate on the next season after that. We're gonna kind of look back at the season as a whole.
No.
Yeah, of course. That's what we do. That's what we do at the final podcast. Because it may be our friend. What if the show gets canceled?
If you want to join the conversation again, if you want to let us know if you want us to do the 100th, anything you want to do is for the 100th episode. Otherwise, it's going to be something crazy.
It's going to be crazy. One of us is going to die off as well. Who will it be?
Spoiler alert, it's Joel.
We're going to kill off one of our major characters.
Ryan's like, no! That's for you, Ryan. I hope you're laughing at that. Join the conversation on Facebook. Let us know what you think. Put us a review on iTunes would be much appreciated. Just even just giving us some stars. Hopefully the 5 stars, not the little 1 star. But just let us know. So we're listening. That would be great. We will be tuning in next week. And until then, I should still probably be Jerry.
Yes, you should.
And who are you?
And I'm Joel. We'll talk to you next time.